Alrighty, hi, it's Garrett here with another episode of Housing with Garrett. Today we're going to do something a little different, or I've been working on something a little different, and I thought I'd share that. This is a project I've been working on for a guildmate, Edwin. He's been trusting enough to allow me free reign over part of his plot. He started out with the base here. I've doubled it just to kind of help alleviate hiding anything that might stick through the floor that I sink in or anything. But he already had the little sky mountain or whatever you want to call it installed. And he had this platform up here, and he's asked me to set up a sort of reading area. He wants to have a place where our guild can come to share stories and just hang out, just something a little different. We have other plots of our guildies that we use for guild purposes, and I guess he wanted to get another one set up because the others are more like the space station that our Void Runner company is headquartered, and a few other places similar to that. But this is something for our casual nights, I guess. But as you can see, I started work on it. I guess it was yesterday. Spent a good amount of time on it. Before I started, I did as I usually do. I did a lot of Googling of different types of things, and Gazebo kind of stuck with me because you can make them as fancy or as plain or whatever that you want. And I've seen other gazebos that other players in WildStar have made. I'm not sure if I've seen any as ridiculously complicated looking as this one, but I wanted to do something a little extra special since, you know, it's for the guild, and I didn't want to just do the same old stuff. Anyway, I did a lot of Googling for different types of gazebos and how the roofing worked. I'd asked him if he wanted like a closed roof, an open roof. You know, did it matter to him how much seating was available and such? He just kind of pretty much left it up to me. So I've told him that if he doesn't like anything, I'll be happy to change it. But so far, he seems pleased with what's been going on. But basically, all I've used so far, as you can probably tell, is mostly a lot of the semi-new decking materials, such as the long deck. I've used a couple of short ones for the end pieces here, and then I went with for the pillars. The Draken pillars are the ones that I chose because they're kind of not exactly directly the same coloring, but it didn't clash as much as the other pillars that we have available to us. So I just stuck with these, and it seemed to have worked pretty well. As far as the choice of keeping the edges square rather than round, I just mirrored the shape of the corner pieces of the decking that was already laid out. Now this piece here, the orange floor, it's really not going to be part of the final piece. It's mostly here for rough measurement, I guess, and placement. Just to kind of, because like I said, I don't do a lot of like specific coordinate calculations, and you know, then I just punch in the numbers and zip, you know, the item goes there. I just kind of eyeball a lot of things. I have a general idea, okay, I want it kind of at this angle, but then I nudge it here and there, and I get up close and just kind of eyeball it most of the time. But the reason it's here in this particular location is because I'm going to make a similar seating arrangement as this, but on the inside. So it's going to have 2 rows of, you know, the outer seating and the inner seating. And so yeah, that's what I'm going to work on today, and see how it goes. You can see I haven't finished closing this end piece off. I need to sort that out. So let's do that real quick. Now yesterday, you can see the placement's still a little quirky. Yesterday I would buy in bulk a lot of the items that I thought I might need. But I'm going to calm that down a little bit because I'm not quite sure. I don't want to over purchase because, again, I'm working on someone else's plot, so I don't want to flood their crate with a bunch of extra stuff that I have to. See, I'm not very good at being efficient with my placement and such. A lot of hit and miss, and takes me a long time, and I'm picky about certain things, how I've got them turned. And this especially has been a real test of patience because the way the boards are for the piece, they kind of are jaggedy. They're not quite square with each other, so it makes it look, if you can, I don't know if you can see very well, it's like this one's out further and that one's in and that one's in the furthest, and there's gaps. And I like the look of it though, and he'd already started with the stairs of that material, so I thought, well, I'll just bring that all through the design, but it's still, these pieces aren't the most fun to work with. Okay, so the idea is that this is the entrance to the main part, and I'd considered setting up the entrance to the inner part as well on this side, but I think it's going to bug me that the pieces, the gaps won't line up. So I think I'm going to start the gap here instead, so that if you walk in, you'll file around, and then to get into the inner story area, I guess it would be called, you have to come on the other side. And that too, you know, just gives another point of view. It makes you want to go around the entire place. But essentially it's going to be the same shape. So we're going to start off with some of the corner pieces. So we'll need 4 of those. Excuse me, got a bit of a scratchy throat today, so I hope I don't cough all over everything. I find it's handy that, that when you're working on someone else's plot as their roommate, that whatever you purchase from the vendor automatically goes into their crate. It doesn't like go to yours or whatever. Start with 2 of them first. I wish while you were on someone else's plot, if you're their roommate, if you put something into, like if you have something already in your inventory and you want to add it to their crate, that you didn't have to mail it to them, that you could just say send to crate, and either there be an option that you can send it to your crate or send it to the one you're roommated with, or if it just automatically went to your roommates if you're on their plot and you're trying to send it to crate. It's just a little more convenient because, you know, maybe I have a bunch of stuff that I want to, you know, bring in, but it's not online, and like, well, you know, gotta wait. luckily I sent him some stuff yesterday, and he was around, so he was able to put that in for me. I'll be using those later. Now, as I said, I'm mostly using the orange floor here as a way of checking where I've placed it, so that I kind of match it up in similar fashion on the other side. Now, I want to make sure that I leave plenty of walking room between the two sections. So I'll lay the corners out first, and then I'll kind of walk around and make sure that everything's square and spacious enough. Because rule of thumb, I think, as long as my character goes through without any kind of like floating in the air, as if I'm, hitting, having some collision with one of the sides, that any character of any size should be able to do so. Now, if I happen to be wrong, thankfully this is easily adjustable. I can just slide it in a little bit. It's actually 2 pieces here. Oh, maybe that one's 1, but it'll be something that we can adjust if necessary. But I think it's going to be okay, because most of my builds I set up that as long as mine can go through smoothly, everybody else doesn't seem to have any trouble. The only time that's not the case is like if the doors are a little wonky, but that's for everybody. It's not just tall, race specific or anything. So yeah. I've never done a gazebo before. Like I said, I've seen other people that have done it. Most often, it's they get away with using like the bowl. It's not a specific. It's just one of the bowls. And it turns out looking really nice. They use the bowl for like the top, and then they also use it for the bottom, and then they use something else to fill in the top of the bottom. Usually like the back side of one of the orange windows, the ones that doesn't have the window showing through on both sides, but it's like the flat brown round part. And it looks pretty nice. They always decorate it up nicely with steps in the front, and of course the columns and everything. Just checking alignment here. Oops. Try and get it as similar as I don't know why that goes weird. Even that looks a little crooked, doesn't it? Gonna be a little funny because the coordinates look different for depending on how you have it turned. At least for me. I'm sure there's like a brainy way of doing this. I know when it comes to like doing staircases that you do by yourself, they have like mathematical calculations that if you want to do a spiral one, then you can have it exact, but it's a little too much for my brain. As I put in the finishing walls, that'll help line up these a little better. We're just kind of getting a rough idea for now. I don't know if it's because I'm working above his, I think he's got a bunker house down below, I'm not sure, that the placement and stuff kind of goes a little squirrely on him. That's really been a big problem, even on my plot. Then I know I have the, I think it was 53. Let me check. Usually I try to round off my numbers. I would have like picked 55, but I may end up doing that anyway. If I've got enough room and it doesn't make it too large. But for now, we're just kind of winging it as usual. Okay, one more. I like the music he's chosen for this plot. I don't know if it's that noticeable on the stream, but I found myself humming it this morning even before I'd logged on. So I've been listening to it for a big portion of the day yesterday. Okay, so I'm going to lift this up just a bit, just enough for me to walk under it, I think. And let's see. Yeah, I think that'll be just wide enough. And we'll still have plenty of room for folks to get between the little corners as well, which is important because, you know, when you're building stuff like this, especially for any kind of RP use, you want to get it as realistic as possible, I guess would be the way to put it, because it's like, you know, these are seats, and for me it's like my character's almost, you know, waist high, so she'd have to, like, you know, pop up on there, but, and, you know, in reality she just walks up, but, you know, you still want it to be visually believable, you know, it's wide enough for everybody to walk through. Okay, so we're going to start adding in some of the wall parts of it. Now, like I said, I'm planning to put the entrance on this side, so that means these here will be walled in. Just on the one side, though. Or maybe I could. This is one of the things where, you know, just like, do I do it this way or do I do it that way? You know, how do I want it to go? Do I just want to leave it the 4 squares and do it like that, or maybe do I want these to be smaller? Yeah, I think maybe smaller. Let's see, how big is the maybe I want the seating up here to be just as wide as it is up here. So I need the corner pieces to be similar in width. So maybe 25. Yeah, that looks better. Oh, bring that back down. Oops. Oh, here. So I've taken that down to 0.25. So I'm going to bring this back down to the floor. And then do the placement again. Now that I've changed my mind. Which I do quite a bit. So yeah, there's still going to be plenty of room for that. And yeah, I think so. Now we need to resize all of these, make our adjustments. And again, as I put the side panels in, that'll help line these up a little more square. I'm sure someone could come in and go, well, that's, you know, off by 0.001 or something, but you know, as long as it looks kind of right, I'm gonna be happy with it. Sometimes when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I wonder, do other builders put in as much worry and how they're, I mean, like the planning that I do. Like with my current build on my own home, I think I spent a couple of months going over different ideas. I had like a notebook full of suggestions for myself, you know, different themes that I might work up. And for each theme, I started taking, you know, jotting down little thoughts like, well, this kind of decor would go well with that one. And in the end, I just picked the one that I had the most fleshed out ideas for. And it turned out to be the Proto-Putt miniature golf park, which I'm still working on. But I just wonder if I'm the only one that's kind of like obsessive with the thought that goes into it. I mean, other people, sure that it's not like they just throw their stuff together, but like, do others sketch out their ideas on paper, or do they use like a little program on the computer, some drawing program to line it up and to give themselves a better idea what they're going to do? Maybe some do like I do with like going onto the player test room and trying out some of the stuff, because I don't only go there just to look at the new stuff. I also go there to have a go at, well, I had this idea for, you know, a vehicle or something, and I don't necessarily want to put it on the plot that I currently have because maybe it doesn't fit the theme, or I don't want people looking at it, you know, looking at what a mess it is. So I go to the PTR and just tinker away while I'm on there in private, and I can just kind of sit back and think, no, that's never going to work. And other things, I'm like, oh, that's something I think I'm going to bring over to live and recreate it. Okay, so I'm using the long pieces for the side. So, and these things are horrible because they come in really large. It's like huge. So we're going to start with the top ones, I think. That way we can get some, get them lined up straight away. And then what we'll do is we'll lift it and then insert the side pieces to get the right height. Because I want it to mirror what I've already done on the outer ring. But we'll get the height with this. Oh no, I'm inside it. And then we're going to lift this corner up to match the height as best we can. Okay, 80 something. 8635. Okay. So we were close. Very, very close. I don't know why it just do it manually, I guess. This is just so weird. Sometimes you'll like put something down and you'll readjust it and it just kind of ports it halfway across, and it's like, why did it go over there? It's not anywhere where I said it, where I wanted it to be. Again, a lot of this is just really tiny adjustments that I go through to get it like I want. It's like a slow but okay process. I mean, I'm sure there's others that can do it faster. Of course, part of it slowing me down is talking as I do it, which I normally, I mean, I talk to myself, but not at length like I do here. Let's see. But now I've forgotten what I was saying. It's just I don't think a lot of people would have the patience to fiddle with this as much, and I'm sure that's why there's not like a gargantuan amount of people that dig the housing system because it can be so tedious. A lot of people just don't have the patience for it. I won't say that a lot of people don't have the creativity because everybody's got their ideas. You know, I've come across guildmates that go, well, I look at everybody else's place and it puts mine to shame, and so I don't even want to mess with it. And really, that shouldn't be the case because there's just so much versatility that. So what if, you know, you don't do it what you think as well as someone else? It's still yours, and no one else is going to build it like you, and no one can see what you might have in your head. And a lot of it is just practice. You know, it takes practice to figure out how to work comfortably with the controls, so that you don't feel clumsy with them. I mean, as much as I work with this, I am all the time making mistakes, or I'll accidentally click off of something and then lose what I had done, or I'll move something and I'll place it before I realize that the size has changed accidentally or something. And so that kind of stuff happens to everybody. And there's been tons of things that I've put together that later I look, oh, that this looks awful, but that's just, you know, your worst critic is yourself. So if someone says, hey, that looks great, then, you know, take it for what it is, and just, you know, learn from it. I know I have a guildmate, he's constantly redoing his plot, and every time he does it, you can tell, you can see the improvements, that he's picked up little tricks of his own that he, you know, incorporates into each new rendition of it. And it's fun to watch because a lot of people, you know, feel like, well, if I don't get it right the first time, well, then, you know, that's that. But it really shouldn't be like that. It's just, it's a learning experience for all of us. And the best way to learn is just to keep at it. Is eventually you'll get what you want. You know, you'll figure out a way to do it. Granted, there are some things that are a little tougher to do, like water effects and such. We're pretty limited on suitable decor that, you know, can mimic water effect or whatever. Now I've seen some fantastic stuff done, and you know, when I see something nifty, I try to my best to, you know, break it down into its parts, so that later, you know, if I decide I want some kind of a water effect, I can go back on that and think, okay, you know, this is what they use. Maybe I can use that, not exactly how they used it, but you know, it's a place to start. It's an inspiration. But because we have so few pieces that can be used to mimic water, it's a really difficult thing to work out sometimes. But I've seen a lot of crazy stuff done with like the blue light tables and some of the like monitor panel type decor, like the one I showed last week, where they had the beach, and it made it look like you were going down into the deep end of the water. And that was just a panel that it doesn't have any collision, so you can get away with. Oops, I'm surprised that let me place that since I was standing in it. And some of the floors, depending on what you're using it for, if you don't mind the opacity of some of the decor items, you can get away with using like the orange walls or the tiny blue crystal is another good light blue color. It's just that depending on what it is that you're needing, not every piece that's got blue or bluish effects or has an appearance of a watery type color, not all of them are suitable. Forget to copy that. Because like in the past when I did a waterfall, in my head in the beginning when I was first planning the plot, I had envisioned that I would just use the tiny blue crystals as the waterfall. I would just kind of, place them strategically so and just have them cascade down the side of the mountain there. But in the end, that just wasn't feasible because one, I've never figured out where they come from other than the age. So it wasn't like I could get my hands on a large amount of them. And and then I thought, well, maybe I'll just start off with them and it'll be okay because, as I get more or buy more, then I could, just finish up the waterfall or whatever. And then I started placing some, and oh boy, that was a horror because those things, they really are tiny. I mean, it's called tiny, it starts out tiny, but it stays tiny as well. Now, if you notice, I had to move that to make it match up with the edge of the one that was already there. So, but yeah, that was a disappointment because I had already I'd even stocked up on some of the crystals in anticipation of using them, and then I come to find out, nope, can't do that. They just won't work. And so I had to rethink how I was going to do that because it just wasn't feasible. They were way too small for the scale of the rock face that I was trying to get the waterfall to go down. It would have taken hundreds of them, I think, and that was just outrageous, especially due to our very limited decor count and everything. It just would have been a mess to try and work that out. In the end, I used the blue light tables, the blue light lounge table. I think those are gotten from challenges somewhere in Far Side, I think. Yeah, I think it's the one where you collect the meteors or some such, the meteor bits. wasn't exactly straight, was it? Let me check these. See, that's where I get into trouble. Things a little wonky. That one's okay. That one's alright. Tightened up a little bit. This is what I was doing all day yesterday. And I see, oops, I got something a little funny, and I gotta adjust it piece by piece. So, you know, don't do like me. Do it right the first time instead. So you don't have to go back and tweak it. Lots and lots of tweaking. Now, see, it was probably good where it was, and I ended up moving it like a goob. Don't be a goob. Okay. So I'm just going to check again, you know, now that it's up in the air, that there's plenty of space. I'm not like floating above the ground, and it looks to be just right. So we're good to go. We're still good to go. Anyway, I ended up using the blue light lounge tables, and I think I ended up, I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it was like, I don't know, it couldn't have been more than maybe 10 at the most. It was probably more like 5 or 6 in total, because they size up pretty considerable. You know, they're pretty large. The only thing that was very awkward was because of the way that the table is made. It's got the blue and it's just an outline on the edges, and it's got that metal plate in the middle. That was very tough to, I ended up using way more rock than I had intended to make up the rock face that the waterfall was coming down, just so that I could hide all of that other mess. So yeah, that was a bit of a pain. You know, the effect that, you know, it came out from it was great. It was one of my favorite parts of the scene when you come in through the cave and you come out into the open, and there's that huge waterfall. But it wasn't easy to cover all that stuff up to make it look like it was just, you know, just the water part. And then the first time I installed the tables, I wasn't really paying attention as per usual, and I ended up putting it in so that the table itself has the blue of the table is animated so that it looks like it's flowing. Well, silly me, I've put it in where it was turned, and I got to look at it, and it looked like the water was going up the rock instead of down. So I had set it up so just perfect, and then I realized the water was going the wrong direction, so I had to all over again, readjust everything. It was a mess. Just one big mess. Will you quit going over there into the sky? Thank you. See how I put it in exactly with the same. I'm copying it, and it's always a little off on the height and stuff. Annoying. I mean, it's not like I can't fix it, but you know, it slows you down because you have to watch, you know, where exactly it landed and if it's the right size and everything. Okay, so this one I'm going to have to move a little bit, get it to work better. See, this one we're going to drop just enough to get it to go underneath. Normally I would type this in to the specific height that I want, but working with these pieces yesterday, I discovered that it didn't matter what I typed in. It just had a mind of its own, and it'd stick it where it wanted. You know, I might type in, I want it right here, and it'd like drop it down way lower for whatever annoying reason. So I've just gotten to where I manually move it like this. Not exactly flush like I want, but maybe that'll sort of get covered by what I plan later. Okay, so now I'm down to the point where I want a gap here. Now I suspect, well, because I've got the corners higher than these center pieces, I should be able to just tuck in the extra and leave the gap right directly in the middle. We'll see though, because if I can, I want it to be similar in size as this. So what I will probably do is get I'm going to need one anyway, so I'm going to get a short deck piece, and I'm going to use that as my measuring tool. Fumble fingers. That's a big one. And I'm going to size it down so that it would fit into the gap. Again, it's not going to be exact, but as long as it's, you know, pretty close, I'll be happy. That way, you know, there's just some uniformity. It mirrors what's going on over here on the other side. So let's see. Keep yo-yoing back and forth. Yeah, it's not too much. So maybe 4. No. 3, 5. Okay, so that's about the size we want the gap. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've got the size of the gap sorted, I'm going to bring it over here and plant that more or less on the floor. And then I'm going to space it where I want it to be, more or less in the center. And as you can see, I'm just using my own eye as far as, you know, the right smack dab in the center. It's probably not, but close enough for me. And we'll just. So this is where the hole will be, so that people, you know, when they come in, they'll come in, and then there's like the seating, and then it's going to be this inner kind of little court, and you have to go all the way around to get in. And so yeah, so that means we want to build out the ledging here, and then we'll box it off like we did here. So we need at least 2 more of the long pieces. Excuse me. I need water. 2 more pieces, so we'll put 1 out. Man, I think I swallowed some dust balls or something. Because my throat is, and it's not really because I'm talking or anything. It was that way even before I got on here. It's like it doesn't want to go. Okay, so we got that lined up more or less, and then now I'm gonna eyeball this top part, and I'll get that sorted as I build up the bottom. It'll be better matched because I don't want to move this up and down. So, you know, just a general idea, but I can already see there's going to be a bit of an issue because of the corner piece sticking out. So, what to do? I'm not sure. Maybe maybe use the small one instead of the long ones for these here. If they end up being too small, like not quite to extend out the extent here, then we'll just have to deal with a wider gap. I think will be the best way to go about it. Excuse me. We'll take a couple more pieces. Copy the big ones so that maybe the size will sort out. And then we'll just see if we can slide that. Yeah, see, it's just a little bit shorter than what I was hoping for, but you know, it's a preferred compromise than it would be to have that corner sticking out, because I definitely want the shape to be similar to the outer ring. So just send that to crate for now. Let me get this. So here I need to turn this around. No, I had that right to begin with. Man. Terrible. Okay. Too low. A little bit up. There we go. Now, looking okay, everything's square. Now, just one way, and then it wigs out the other side. Okay, there we go. I think it's good. Now, we'll, since it's not going to matter really, because the gap is going to be big no matter what, I can just use this piece and make the other side, since I won't need to be really measuring it. And maybe it's okay that it's, bigger than the other one. In reality, they may decide that they want, Ed might decide he wants the bigger one on the front part too. And then I'll be doing some readjustments on that one instead. Okay, so there's our general layout for the inner circle. Now to install all of the walls for those. So I'm just going to pick a spot. Since we know that this one is going to be short because of the corner working, we're probably going to need several of these size, the short ones, to situate for the ends here, this corner, and that. This one's going to be the trickiest part, this little one here. What I may end up having to do is use 2 of the little ones, because I want the alignment of the panels to be the same, so I'll probably end up using 2 small ones to get the feel of it. It's not going to be exactly the right scale and everything, but it's just going to have the same, at least the same stroke look. But we'll see how it goes. We'll do the main parts first, and then we'll come back to the corner and spread over that for a while. So we need got 1. We're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll just do the 6 first. So we need 5 more. Again, I'm trying to keep it just to the specific ones that I need. I don't want to over purchase. Granted, it's not his money that's being used, it's mine, but I don't want to clutter his crate with a bunch of extra junk. True, he could, delete it, but I don't know. It's like going into someone's home. You don't want to rearrange the refrigerator or something. Just, put your ink and get out. Okay. Now, one thing I'm going to be looking is this particular decor has like a little hooking on the end. I don't know if you can see it very well, but I want those always facing in, like I have now, so that when, like, see here, you can see the hook facing down. I don't want that part sticking up or out. I want to keep it where everything looks nice and smooth, like it was made to be like this. So, because yesterday when I was putting some of the walling in here, I had forgot to do that, and I ended up having to redo, or at least flip them all and realign them, because I forgot to turn them the right way. I was very upset with myself. And of course, I'm always looking for flashing effects, see, like right here. That kind of annoys me, but you usually can get rid of it by just adjusting by like 0.1 or 0.01 height or depth or whatever direction is needing to go. But because of the way these particular pieces are made, there's like different levels anyway, and so you may get most of it, and then have this one little piece that's still overlapping and making a flashy effect. And but if you move it enough to get rid of that one little piece, then it looks like here you can see there's a pretty good gap there for the height. Maybe that'll work. Maybe that was just telling me, hey, I'm not the right height. But see, you can see how everything's been kind of adjusted height-wise. It's not exactly smooth, but that's due to the flashy effects that you get, and you have to make little adjustments to get it to stop doing that. There seems to be some flashy effect going on from the shadow there. But anywho, that's one piece. 50 billion to go. Yeah, when I told my husband I was going to start doing the streaming thing, I told him, oh, it's just going to be one day a week. I think I can live with that. But then I told him, it's kind of silly just to go one day a week. 1 day a week scheduled, I'm okay with that. That way, at least if there's people that actually, by some miracle, want to tune in, they know to expect me on that day, on that particular day, and at that particular time. But I'm here a lot anyway, and it seems kind of silly not to go ahead and stream while I'm here working on this stuff. Okay. Yeah, I want to turn this up. So for those that might actually be interested in watching this stuff as I make it, they'll just have to kind of play it hit and miss through the week, because I'm not gonna continually advertise, spam people with hey, I'm on. The easiest way would be just to follow my channel if you want to make sure you don't miss any castings. But like I said on the page, it's not going to be just me doing this. Today it is. It happens to be that way because I'm working on this project for Ed, but sometimes it'll just be me doing challenges or questing or something, the same usual stuff that everybody else has up. But I can guarantee that the Wednesday ones, the ones that are actually scheduled, will always be housing. It might not always be my house, I really love promoting other people's homes. You know, it's okay to watch what I'm doing, but you know, there's so much more fantastic stuff out there to look at that I'd much rather show off other people's homes than to just stare at mine all day. What do I do? So now we're going to start putting in some of these walls here. Now, if I really wanted to do it just like the other ones, I'd copy from off of there and just slide them across, but I think it's gonna work here, just this, hopefully. You'll see. But yeah, you want to make sure that the hooky part is where it's supposed to be. Don't want the hooky out. And it's good too because the way I set this up, the pieces are actually sunken down into the flooring a little bit. That was why I had to double up the layer down below. That way, even if they're not exactly, you know, they're probably not matching up exactly on both ends, but at least the top kind of is where it's supposed to be, or roughly, I should say. And of course, now that I've got the one down, I'll just copy off of it. And makes it sound so easy, but I know it's not. Find that a little better. We know it's not. Okay. Just a very slow process. And a lot of people, like I said, don't have the patience for it. Oops. Okay. What did I do? I used the wrong one, didn't I? Yeah, I've got the short one. Silly me. That's what happens when you're not paying attention. With the long one. Will you put it down, please? Of course, you know, you can do like others have done. Get someone to do it for you. You know, just tell them what you want, and usually people are more than happy. You know, a lot of us builders, we love to build, and for me, I only have the one character. I mean, I have alts, but I don't use them for housing per se. I have just the one that I do a little bit of tinkering with on their plot, but I don't do any kind of full plot kind of stuff. Mostly just junky junk. But I know a lot of people that are into housing, and they have like 3 or 4 alts that they have different themes going on the plots. And since we can only have so many characters on our realm anyway, to satisfy their addiction to housing, they offer, you know, hey, I'll come build this for you if you, you know, either for free, or they'll, you know, ask for compensation for the materials, or, you know, maybe even money for the time that they take up putting it together. And up until now, I haven't done anything for anyone else. Well, I did something before for a guild event that we had, the Void Runners open house. I built the barbecue eating area. It was a simple little patio kind of thing. But I think this is the first major build that I've done for somebody else. And I could see how people that, you know, need that extra outlet and they don't necessarily want to get rid of whatever they've put on their own plot, or don't have the room, or whatever. It's another way for them to expand on their avenues of being able to build stuff, is to build stuff for other people, not just themselves. And with so many folks feeling like they either don't have the talent for it or don't have the time, I could see it, someone turning it into a nice profitable business, because there are a lot of people that would love to have a fancy house or a certain theme that fits their character or whatever, and would be more than willing to pay someone to put that together for them. The only thing is that if you decide that you want to hire someone, or look into having somebody do that for you, while being able to give them an idea of what you're looking for is certainly welcome, you also want to that didn't feel right, did it? A little weird. Okay, maybe I was just imagining it. Anyway, you want to give them some freedom too. You don't want to, because someone can say, draw me a tree, and you can draw them a tree, but it'll never be exactly like what they're envisioning in their own head. So you have to be willing to accept someone else's interpretation of a tree. You might be thinking, you can give them some direction by saying, well, I want a spooky tree, and then they would think, okay, you don't want leaves, you want it like a in the fall season with no leaves, and it looks all gnarly and dark and full of like little bumps and stuff. But you don't want to go too specific. Like I had that experience when I used to be a designer on a SIG and banner forum many years ago, and people would come in with banner and signature requests, and they would be so specific. I want this here, and it needs to be turned that way, and I want this text here, and I want it glowing, and it needs to be this size, and I want it animated, and it needs to, have this picture and that picture and all of this, junk incorporated into this one little tiny area. And it was like, there's no way I can do it specific. I can try and get as close to it as I can. There's always going to be a lot of, you have to be willing to accept that not everything can, work exactly as you might hope. And for some, while it's like the common phrase, the customer knows best, in reality, that's not necessarily the case, because, for someone that doesn't work with housing or know the limitations that are placed on it due to the, whatever, they might expect you to, walk on water, and you're like, sorry, I'm gonna have to swim it. It just doesn't work like they think. It's not something you just slap down and voila, it's there. There's a lot more that goes into it. And that's true of most anything. And it's a give and take. And so if you go to ask somebody to build it, keep all of that in mind, and don't be too rough on them if they don't make it exactly like you were hoping they will. If you ask for a Mordash home, but you yourself don't want a lot of coffins and stuff in your house, then you have to be specific to them. You want a somber looking environment, but you don't want it to be cliche, you know. Let's see. Keep forgetting the word deck. What I get for yapping. Okay, so this is like an example of what I made. I think that the 20 stuff is out. Yeah. So, see, I have to remember to flip it so that the smooth side is... Whoa, whoa, whoa. Jiggling around there. Since I'm using it for the other side now, I've got to make sure I don't have the pokey stuff out. See, now that I flipped it, then I just copy this one. It's just, you remember to flip it. See, did I do that here? Yeah, it looks okay. So now we'll put another one down. Sometimes people ask me, you know, how many hours do you put on this? I'm not one of those that like keeps track. I do it. I usually get into like a building frenzy, I guess. Like I just go at it for a few hours and then you just kind of lose track of time. But I don't like time myself or keep track. I don't even normally like keep track of how many items. I have to like open up the place, the decor list to even see. The only time I do that is I run a competition for my guild. It's not really a competition, it's like a challenge. You know, there's no prizes awarded other than we have a little voting thing at the end of the month, and they get to see, you know, who's the favorite of the guild. But what it is I give them like a theme every month, and I'll say, can you build something to do with this? Like this month is a playground item. They have to build something that you would find on a playground, like a slide or a merry-go-round or one of those spring rider things. Whatever they, you know, feel like. I try not to limit it too much, other than, you know, to be centralized around a specific theme to kind of give them a focus. And generally speaking, I build something the week before I give them the challenge, so that I can show them an example of what I'm talking about. Because for me, I don't like giving anybody else a challenge unless I'm willing to do it myself. So I make sure that I always participate, even if I don't put mine in on the vote. I like, because, you know, I like that kind of stuff too, you know. So it's my way to participate. But the fun part is getting others engaged in wanting to do it too. And but when I build the examples for them, I always keep track of not how long it takes me to build it, but I keep a list of the items that I put into the build. So like, you know, if I build say a car, and then I'll say, well, I used 5 wheels, 2 bananas, a car-themed lamp, and blah, blah, blah. And that kind of gives people an idea of just what all kinds of items go into a particular build. And they may think, well, you used a banana? Where did you use a banana? I didn't even see the banana, and they, take a closer look at what you built and they go, wow, I can't believe that's a banana, you know, stuff like that. That's the only time that I actually keep track of what I put into it. I don't keep track of how much I spend. I'm sure it's, hundreds of plat by now. That's because that's where most of my money goes, is into the housing. Buying, while I tend to build cheap, there are some things that for a particular theme that I say, huh, I gotta have that, and I'm willing to cough up a little bit for it. But well, I don't really use like a lot of plugs. In fact, I think the last 2 plots I've done, I haven't used any of the plugs, so I don't have to worry about that too much. I don't have to do a lot of the grinding of the challenges and dungeons and stuff to try and get that. Granted, there's probably a lot of decor I missed out on because I don't do a lot of dungeons and stuff, but that's where, wrong thing. Having a little bit of a nest egg built up helps, feed my habit of gotta have the housing stuff. There's always some new fandangled thing that you probably won't get a hold of any other way than through the AH, and this is a way to get that. How does that doesn't look right? Yeah, maybe it's just me. Oh. Touching the arrows. It doesn't look right on the end, does it? That thing turned? Oh dear. It is turned, didn't it? How did that get all wonky? I don't know, but it did, didn't it? That would be why the other piece looked wrong. Because it was. Okay, does that one have a gap? That one's a little wonky too, isn't it? Acting weird. Okay. Is that better? Look okay. Kinda, maybe no. Ugh. Go and just there. Okay. I don't really like that gap, but if I pull it out, then the top part will be sticking out. So. Okay, so we got the outer wall for most of it set now. Okay, so before we do the inner, let's see how we're going to tackle these corners. Tricky. I'm hoping we can get away with just using the short pieces. But I don't know if we're going to have joy for that. We will soon find out. Let's see. It's going to be too wide on that at that scale. Okay. Put the hooky in the wrong? No, it's good. So. Yeah, so it's gonna be too wide as is. But if we go ahead and knock it down, or it's just the right width, maybe it won't look too noticeable. Is that too small? Not a little bit. Yeah, see if I put two of the small ones there on the ends and then use the regular sized for this part and this part, since it'll be, I think that'll be all right. It means probably more pieces than I really had wanted to use, but you know, if that's what it takes to get it to look more uniform, then I'm willing to do it. Probably more because it's not my plot and not my crate that I have to worry about. Because I think he's still sitting pretty good. We're only at like 264 of 1,000. I don't know how much he started out with before I started tinkering with it. I didn't even think to look, but I'm sure most of that is this thing. Is I know yesterday I dumped like 50 pieces out, and that was like for the outer wall here, all of the long pieces. I think I've used quite a few. But he said, I talked with him yesterday. I said, "Are you sure there's no like other than the general limit? You know, there's no personal limit you want to slap on me?" He goes, "No, no, no. You know, just go hog wild." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna," because you know, I can put in tons of detail. I can do that. And like I said, he's not really specified anything other than he did say he wanted it kind of orangy. That's why I stuck with the wood. I didn't get, you know, there is some metal like the pillars and stuff. What am I? Oh, deck. Again, deck. Um, like I said, there are some metal pieces and everything, but uh, he wants it ornate. What that means, I guess, is you know some flowers and maybe even pillows. I don't know. Maybe I'll line some of the seating with pillows, or just put some pillows on top of it. I'm not sure how I'm gonna dress it up, but for now, I'm just focusing on the basic structure itself, getting the seating, the shapes like I want of the circles, and then the detail stuff will come in later. Let's see, deck short. So I need, so for all together, I'm going to need 3 more pieces here. 1, 2, 3, and so that's 4 pieces total. The 2 here, and then the 2 for this end. So I'm going to need 4 and 4 and 4, so another 12. 12. See, look at that. That adds up really fast. I've probably used like 50 pieces of this so far in total. I don't know why that goes way out there. Annoying. Put it where I say to. Okay, so we're going to copy the little one first so that we get that planted where it needs to be. I wish they'd change these arrow colors a little more. Yeah, see, that's unfortunate because it really is just a little teensy weensy gap down there that's missing a bit of wood. Wouldn't even notice unless you're like me and staring at it going, there's a gap there. So, yeah. Is there a gap there? Man, I hate to use the piece, but I have to. It's like right on it, isn't it? Maybe I don't need this second. That would be wonderful. I just assumed that was weight. Huh? No. So great. It's only the 3 pieces. Awesome. So we'll take this one. See, I said whoops, whoa. I didn't want to get extra pieces if I didn't have to, and I've just gotten an extra little sticks. But that said, I'll probably find a use for them somewhere. Why is that so low? Back up, 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 up. There we go. See all the flashy, just enough to be annoying. Really high. Sunken in too much. And that doesn't look like it. Oh, that's okay. We're good. We're good. Panicking. Go through like umpteen emotions through building stuff. Frustration to joy and to, oh my gosh, what did I do? I just hope when this is done, he doesn't come back and go, oof, this is so wrong. I will just tell him, do it yourself. No, I'm sure he won't do. He was very ecstatic yesterday. He took a glimpse because I had been working on it all day. I hadn't seen him, and we had a raid last night, checking out the new place. And just before we started gathering for that, he come in, and he was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And that's a reward in itself. When people appreciate what you've managed to put together. A big part of it. Making people go, wow, and yeah, I think that looks good. Now, the scaling is a little different, but it's just in the one spot or 4 in the end, but it's not that noticeable. I mean, you'll know about it, I'll know about it, but most people won't even. That's one thing too. I like adding a lot of details into my builds. I'll get ridiculously silly about some of the stuff I add into my housing. And I think probably 90% of it goes unnoticed because so many people just go in and just kind of take a quick glance around. It's like watching a movie, there's a great amount of work that goes into the scenery, setting up a room to have all of the little bits, the pens and the papers and the pictures on the wall and the drinks and, just junk on the table and on the shelves and on the walls and on the dresser. And we just take that all for granted, If it was missing, we'd notice, or if it was something outlandish, but we just are so used to seeing it, I guess our brain just expects it or something. And the same is true in the housing, unless you're specifically looking for a lot of those details, they're easy to miss. And for me, I put in a lot of detail, and I'm sure a good portion of it is overlooked because people just don't. And it's funny too. Like I'll have people visit my house or something, and then like a week later, they happen to be dropping by again, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you had this." I was like, "That's been there all along," and it's just they happen to notice it the second time around. And let's see, I think I copied and then pasted it onto the same thing and kind of freaked it out. Instead of clicking this insane paste. Is it 135 maybe? I'm so bad at these angles, and yet I work with them so much. You'd think I had figured out a good way to sort that out for myself. Yeah. Okay, so the hookie's in the right spot. We're good on that. On the height, I think. And like so. Now, is that? Yeah, it was just enough on there. Awesome. I'm glad about that. You know, I don't want to build lots and lots of pieces into it just for the heck of putting lots and lots of pieces in. So if I can get away with using fewer pieces and getting essentially the same effect, the way to go. You know, that's one of the things I like about a lot of the cheap items. I mean, I'm sure Carbon didn't plan it that way. Or if they did, they're like geniuses, but I like the versatility of a lot of the cheap items. They can be used in so many ways. You know, some of these items, they're so particular in their shape and the coloring, and maybe they're a functional item, like a chair or something, and you just can't get away with using those any way you want, if that makes sense. There's limitations on how you can combine it with other things, but like the banana. I talk about the banana a lot, but the banana is a really versatile decor piece, and it's a good color, you know. But like the plates, the bowls, the mop is awesome for like stick things that you want, because you know there's other stick items like the flag poles and stuff, but you have that flag to deal with. The mop is just the one little end you have to hide, and of course the mop, you know, is useful not just as a mop or as a piece of something else, but you can like shrink it down to a little teeny weeny, and then you have a paintbrush, and you know. I like items that can be used in more than one way easily. You know, you don't have to think too hard to kind of think, well, you know, that could work. You know, and it just so happens that a lot of those are cheap to come by, and I love that, because if I can save a penny or a copper or whatever it is, I will do so. The Frugal Builder. Maybe that should be my title. Almost done with the outside over on this side. Then we have 2 more corners to do. It's like a never-ending mess. I don't know, is that gonna work? Seems that part is, you know, too. Not too much fleshy. No fleshy. Maybe I want to pull it out and have the other one behind. Yeah, I think that looks a little smoother. Okay, so that's 2 corners done. Looking good. now to on the other two. Let's see. Sort. Copy this one from the other side, and hopefully it will retain the correct rotation here. And just drag it. The only thing we have to be careful here is, yep, the hooky. The hooky is wrong, so fix that. And then pop it in. Oop. Looks like just a little bit of adjustment there. Looks good. That was fairly painless. Worrisome. Okay, so now let's see if we can just grab wait. I think I used the wrong piece. Used the wrong piece? Yeah, I think I used the long one instead of the short one. I will get the hang of this one of these days. Okay, maybe I had it right the first time. Man, I'm so bad at this. Okay. Hooky, turn the hooky. Facing the right direction. Pop it in. How does that look? Does that look good? Yes, no, maybe. I think we'll call that okay. Alright, so now I got this piece here. Stomach is growling, but I'm not really hungry. I'm sure that's not a good sign. There we go. Bring that out a bit. Okay, so not lining up. What have I done? What have you done, Carrot? What have you done? Angle off. Okay, maybe I just have it pushed. Looks wrong, doesn't it? Something's wrong. That's okay. So it's something here because there's like considerable amount of wrongness there. Let me move this up. No, I don't think that's... Oh, there's a little... Maybe I accidentally moved it earlier. One never knows when it... Ah, I see what it is. Do you see what it is? It's the hooky again. That's what it is. That can really... You wouldn't think that it would make a big difference, but it does. For whatever reason, having that turned wrong really makes it unaligned. It's in or out. We'll leave that. Not get it off. Flashy, wonky. Always a little piece doesn't want to cooperate. Okay, I think that's sorted now. Did it? Wow, now doing all that. Maybe it's just the angle that's wrong. And there's that top that just need to tuck this. No. Well, we'll just little off. Any of the others look it looks okay. That one's a little off. Oh well. It's not gonna be like spotless perfect. I try to get as close as I can, but okay, so in the beginning, when I first started building, I used to do every single piece individually. I never copied and pasted. Because the first time I had tried it, I guess I wasn't doing it right or something and it didn't work. So I just thought, that tool sucks, and just didn't use it again for a long while. And so you might think I'm pretty slow now, but I was much slower before. I just would do every individual piece. I'd like check and double check to make sure I've got the right angles, the same as everything else, but I would punch it in coordinate by coordinate. And that's why it got even more tedious for me, because a lot of times to do this really accurate building, unlike mine, it helps to know the coordinates and stuff, and I'd punch them in and it'd be like totally wrong, and then I'd get all frustrated because it didn't come out like I had wanted it to do. But I gave the copy paste one a go, after a month or so, and it worked that time, and I was like, I'm in love. His stuff was like awesome. The same way with the linking tool. It took me a long time to get the hang of that one, because sometimes they say, it always says, when you click on the thing that you want to link to something else, when you click on it, it says right-click the object you want to link it to, and then it would disappear, and I was like, well, it didn't do anything. And so I go, well, I guess that didn't work, and I'd be like trying to move something, and then I click on the thing that actually was the parent, and then like a bunch of stuff would light up, and I'm like, what? I don't want to move everything. I just want to move this one. The only thing I get upset with is like, well, there's the bug now where you link stuff, and you go to move it, and a lot of stuff resizes. That's a pain. But earlier, before that issue came to light, I would like link stuff, and then I would want to just move the parent one, because when you've got stuff linked and you move one of the babies, you can move it individually and not affect the placement of the rest. But if you just want to move the parent, then you have to unlink it, and then you can move it. But if you want to move the group again, then you have to go around and individually click, 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 and link it all back together. It doesn't keep its little babies. I wish there was a way either you could like say you want to move only that particular item and not anything it's linked with, even if it's the parent. Or I know some have asked for like a group selection tool or something, where you can like say, click and drag, and this field covers up this particular area, and those items will get linked together. Just like a lot of people want the ability to save configurations, so that as long as you have the decor in your crate and you say, I'd like to have, say for instance, I could somehow save the configuration of this gazebo, and then later Ed decides to wipe his plot, but he wants the gazebo back, and he wants it on the ground rather than up here in the sky. Well, he could just like hit this list of saved configurations and say, build this. It'll build it up here where it was originally, but then he can just drag it down as one piece. I think a lot of people would love that, because there are those that want to change up their house to go with the seasons or the holidays, and that would just make things easier to be able to switch it out, kind of like you do in your own home. You have, rather than having to, a lot of people, rather than putting their Christmas lights away, they just leave them hanging, but then turn them on when the time is right. But this way, you wouldn't have to leave them hanging out. You could flip a switch, and suddenly they're all placed where you had them before.